Hi everybody and welcome back to Thursday's class read. We're going to finish off reading chapter 10 and then read part of chapter 11. Enjoy. Not far away, a fragment of the roof from the Thurlstones' temple floated on the waves. Stacey de Lacy sat on it, bedraggled and alone, using another smaller piece of flotsam for a paddle. He was paddling himself away from the hallowed shallows as quickly as he could. He was hoping that, if the sea stayed calm and the wind in the right direction, he might paddle all the way home. He wondered if his parents would have noticed that he'd been away. "Eep," said a little voice. Webbed paws appeared over the edge of his raft. A sea monkey pulled itself aboard and snuggled down against Stacey's left knee. He patted its head, feeling rather glad that he still had a friend left. "Eep," said another monkey, scrambling out of the sea behind him. "Eep, eep, eeba, eepol," said a dozen more. "No," cried Stacey, "back in the sea with you, there isn't room." But there's no arguing with sea monkeys, and the sea around his raft was green with them. They swarmed aboard. When there wasn't a single inch of bare wood left without a little wet green body sitting on it, they started sitting on Stacey de Lacy instead. And when there wasn't a single inch of him without a monkey on, they took to sitting on top of each other until a teetering, bickering mound of monkeys was piled high on the wallowing raft, with Stacey de Lacy in the middle of it somewhere, still glumly paddling. Chapter 11. Mr. and Mrs. Crisp were very meek during the journey home. They knew that their terrible adventures had all happened because they'd been so eager to explore the islands, and they knew of the dangers that Oliver had braved to rescue them. "No more exploring for us," they agreed, sitting with Oliver, Iris and Mr. Culpepper beside the campfire that they had lit on Cliff's Head. But Oliver knew they didn't mean it. After all the thrilling new things they'd seen, they would soon be itching to go exploring again. They wouldn't even have to worry about money anymore, because the old trunks which they'd dragged out of the watermole to use as seats around the fire turned out to be stuffed full of Spanish gold. For at the moment, though, they seemed very happy to be safe and back with Oliver again. They were happier still a few days later, when Cliff waded into Deepwater Bay, and they saw their house and the dear old Explorer-mobile standing where they had left them. Oliver wasn't happy, though. He was glad to see dry land again, but he didn't feel that surge of joy he'd felt when Dad drove them down the lane to the house that first day. He still wanted a home just as badly, but he wanted something else now too. He wanted to be with and Iris. He was going to miss them. So he stood quietly watching while the shore came closer, and his mum and dad did a happy-to-be-home dance on Cliff's golden sand. And when they said, "Look, Ollie, it's our house, and aren't you glad to be back?" he nodded and said that he was. But Mr. and Mrs. Crisp could tell he wasn't, and they looked solemnly at one another. They both knew how sweet and sad it can be to want two different things so completely. "Don't worry," said Mr. Crisp, putting an arm round Oliver's shoulders. "We'll find a way." Mrs. Crisp knelt down and tapped politely on Cliff's forehead. "We were wondering," she said, "if you've nowhere else to go, perhaps you'd like to stay here in Deepwater Bay. It looks so much nicer with an island in it." Okay, Year 3 and Year 4, I'm going to pause there for today, and we'll finish our book off tomorrow. Well done, everyone.